Hey guys, PainRelievers here, bringing you a dose of commentary about how strong I think each killer is in the game right now. So first up is Trapper, and he's gotten a lot better since his recent rework. So his add-ons have just been buffed a lot. Like one of them lets his traps reset themselves, another one injures survivors if they disarm the trap, and things like this, they give him a lot more time. They reduce the amount of time he has to spend managing his traps, reduce his chase time because some of those survivors are going to be injured already, so he can just one-hit them. So, he's a lot better, but he's still luck-based. His power is still reliant on the survivor stepping in his trap, so for that reason I'm going to be putting him in the B tier. So next up is Wraith, and Wraith's add-ons have gotten a significant rework that make him a lot more fun to play. One of his add-ons completely silences his bell, giving him a lot of mind game opportunities during pallet loops, and just easier first hits when coming out of stealth. Another add-on lets him see generator repair progress, so if survivors are working on a generator, he'll be able to see that, oh, they're on that generator, which is it seems overpowered to me because he can just roam to that area of the map as soon as he notices that the generator is being worked on. So, I mean, there's a lot of great add-ons that he got reworked here. And even though he is very easily pallet looped, I would have put him in the C category in terms of tiers, but I think he's probably a B category now thanks to this rework he got. He's a lot more fun to play now. So next up is Hillbilly, and Hillbilly is still very strong. Nothing's really changed about him. He still has a one-hit kill. He still has insane map pressure. He can hook a survivor, and then with barbecue and chili, he can go to the next generator all his friends are at and kill them, and kind of snowball like that. If he just keeps downing and hooking survivors, he just basically has wall hacks almost the entire game, or when it matters. So yeah, he's still very strong, definitely S tier. If you play him and you're good at him, you almost always will win the game. So next up is Nurse, and Nurse is still an extremely powerful killer. Her blink is super versatile. It lets her traverse the map very quickly. She can blink through walls and through the floors of different buildings. She can ignore pallets and windows, and her chase times are very short in comparison to other killers. She can down a survivor in just like 10 seconds. It's really that short if she times her blinks well. So this makes her very powerful with time management and just killing survivors and snowballing. So for that reason, she's definitely going into the S tier. So next up is Myers, and Myers is a pretty strong killer. He has a lot of variety in terms of add-ons where he can change up his playstyle. Some of his add-ons are just straight up overpowered, like the one that gives him infinite tier 3. One-shotting survivors should not be underestimated, by the way. It saves so much time to just one-shot them and then hook them rather than injure them and then have to go through a whole series of pallet loops. So for that reason, because he is very good at dealing with survivors quickly, he's going into the A tier. So next up is Doctor, and Doctor is a pretty interesting killer because of his madness mechanic. On the one hand, he can completely prevent survivors from repairing the generators, giving you more time to kill them. On the other hand, his chase times are probably some of the longest in the game because he has to rank up that madness in survivors. So you have to look at it both ways. If his chase times are long, he's not doing much killing, but if he's preventing generator progress, then he's also kind of doing his job. Also, he can prevent pallet loops with his shock therapies, but sometimes it's just impossible to hit the survivor with the shock therapy before they throw the pallet down. So, yeah, I mean, it kind of depends if you're good at timing those shocks. If you are, then you might be a monster in the game and win more. But otherwise, he's kind of a mediocre killer who just gets pallet loops, so for that reason, he's going in the B tier. So next up is Hag, and since her recent rework, Hag is a monster now. She has incredibly fast trap setting time. She can be anywhere on the map pretty much, anywhere that matters anyway. She's going to be setting up traps where it matters if they're good, and she doesn't really require much skill to play. I mean, you just set a trap down, eventually somebody's going to walk over it, and then you'll get a hit, and if they run into a second trap, then that's a kill. So, she can guard basements very well, guard hooks very well with her traps, and she's just very hard to play against unless you have urban evasion. So for that reason, she's going into the S tier. So next up is Leatherface, and Leatherface is just not very strong at the moment. he doesn't have the mobility of Hillbilly, and his chainsaw is so easy to dodge. I mean, you can just turn a corner and then he could hit the wall. He revs up very slowly, so you could have thrown a pallet down by then. His power is just underwhelming, and he's just basically a normal killer under most circumstances. So he's definitely going into the D tier. Even if you play him well, he's probably going to lose against good survivors. So next up is Freddy, and in a game where time is of the essence, and you only have a short amount of time to kill the opposing team before they complete their objective, Freddy just falls short of every other killer. His power doesn't help him at all during a chase. It takes him 7 seconds to start the chase, and then he just gets pallet looped until the game ends, pretty much. So for that reason, he's going in the D tier. Until he gets reworked, that's probably not going to change. So next up is Huntress, and Huntress is undeniably a pretty strong killer. Having a ranged attack is no joke. You can definitely just finish survivors off from a distance if they're trying to do pallet loops or window vaults. You can catch them out like that where other killers couldn't because you have a ranged attack. And don't even get me started if you equip red hatchets, you'll just make them disconnect because one-shot ranged attacks is basically a sniper. So, for that reason, because she can finish chases fairly quickly in comparison to other killers, she's going into the A tier. So next up is Pig, and Pig is kind of just a vanilla killer. She does have some nice qualities about her, though, being able to crouch and sometimes get an easy first hit or a pull off of a generator. Her reverse bear traps also, they can stall a game out for a pretty long time, but it's really luck-based whether or not the survivors get those off on their first try at the jigsaw boxes. So I mean, there are some good qualities about her, but nothing that really helps her finish a chase quickly, so for that reason, she's going into the B tier. So next up is Clown, and Clown is a pretty powerful killer. He's kind of like Huntress. He has a ranged attack. It doesn't do any damage, but its sole purpose is area denial and shortening chases, and his chase times are typically much shorter than other killers are. So he is pretty powerful. He does still get pallet loops sometimes, and I really had a tough time determining whether he should be like A tier or B tier. I'm thinking in the case where he runs the add-on where he can one-shot survivors when he hits them with the bottle, I think that would make him A tier. Otherwise, he's B tier because he can still get pallet looped, and he does still have to reload those bottles, and that does take some time on its own. So yeah, he's probably B tier. I had a hard time choosing. It's either A or B, but I'm going with B for now. And lastly, we have the Spirit. And the Spirit's a very interesting killer. I think she has a higher skill cap than Nurse. She kind of plays like Wraith in that she can get first hits pretty easily, and she can kind of play mind games with her phase walk with that phantasm she leaves behind. It actually has a collision box, and she can block off pallet access with that during a chase. So, in some cases, she can end chases very quickly, but in other cases, it's just not really usable during the chase. Survivors can juke her, and she can't actually see them during the phase walk. So I mean, it's kind of hard to put her somewhere. But right now I think she probably belongs in the B tier. She can win games for sure, but there's definitely some skill and effort required to win those games. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you found my analysis helpful, make sure to subscribe for future content.